Done by Noon podcast. Today we're talking with my friend, former business partner, BFF, awesome dude, Matt Gallant.
You're listening to the Done by Noon podcast, a podcast for entrepreneurs who want to achieve more by noon than others in a full day. Serial entrepreneur Dave Ruel and his co-host Chris Lopez share the strategies that will help you optimize your productivity, performance, and lifestyle so you can reach new heights in your business and life. So if you're ready to become the most efficient and effective entrepreneur you know, you're in the right place. Welcome to the show.
Reach new heights.
The Nouvelle Heights. That was a cool intro.
I know. Thanks, man. That's a word I think we're saying all the time. You know, we're working together, reaching new heights. That's a word I got from you. I love that. Yeah. You always say that. We're reaching new heights.
Yeah, or in French, if you want to throw the nouvelle, which is the French word for new, and the Nouvelle Heights.
The Nouvelle Heights. Bro, so happy to have you on the podcast.
Yeah, it's great to be here.
I feel like probably our listeners know you already because I talk to you all the time on the podcast. You know, you were one of my, I would say, early mentors in the game. Was blessed is another word we use all the time, but blessed to have you as a business partner for many years. We built multiple businesses together, had a lot of fun, made a lot of money, and went through a lot of things together, man. And I gotta say, like, one thing that I miss every day is working with you on a daily basis, man. It was a true blessing, but we're blessed to, still be very, very, very close friends. And we talk very often too. We have our cigar plexes monthly. So that's how we keep in touch. And, you keep me posted on, your world, on how things are going and how, the cool things that you always seem to be working on cool things and always interested on awesome stuff. So, these calls, everything that we do following up, every time I talk to you, I just, come back a lot smarter than I was an hour earlier, man. How's everything in Panama?
Yeah, Panama is starting to open up. After last year in 2020, we had the hardest, toughest, I think, lockdown in the world, 5 months of 4 hours of freedom a week, which, I just used to focus, right? I saw a lot of my friends kind of lose their shit and get upset and attack the government, attack this and attack that. The same thing in the States. It wasn't just a Panama thing, right? A lot of people just got upset. And I just saw the waste of time and energy. And I'm a big believer in serenity and the serenity prayer and, just being at peace, accepting the things I can't change. And I can't change what the government decides or mandates or mask or no mask or curfews or any of that stuff. So why am I going to spend even a single minute worrying about it? And I just got hyper focused and hyper effective and efficient, which is what this podcast is all about.
Boom, man. That's one thing. And, I don't think you were always like that. I feel like Matt Gallant version, I don't know, you're probably version 13.0 now, but like your version, the version of yourself is a lot more. Yeah, serenity is a big thing. I feel like maybe 10 years ago, you could have been more, you would have been, knife between your teeth and you would have went against, all this stuff. And now you're more, okay, I can't control that. And whatever I do or I say will have minimum impact on things. So I'd rather focus on, doing what I do best, so.
Yeah, I think as a human being, but even more so as an entrepreneur, I became hyper aware of where am I wasting energy and what am I burning up my precious mental RAM with? And, worrying about things, whether it's political or again, anything you can't control, is just a massive waste of our valuable research, which is time, energy. And I always look at our brains as a computer. And, whether we're taking a dump or taking a walk or shoveling snow like you did this morning, there's RAM. And, a lot of our best thoughts come when we're doing, quote unquote, doing nothing. We're walking, we're taking a shower or whatever we're doing. And a question I like to ask entrepreneurs is, what are you spending that time on? What are you spending that RAM on when, again, you're not working? And I think that if people kind of start paying attention to that RAM, they'll find that they're probably most people are wasting a lot of juice there.
Yeah, your attention. Pay attention on where you put your attention. The notion of RAM was something I got early from you. About managing myself was. I love that analogy of a computer. And the computer is going to overheat if you make it work on multiple. When you have too many tabs open on your on Google Chrome, you're going to have as you said, the beach ball of death on your computer, and it's going to slow everything down, and you're not going to perform. And I feel like something you've really mastered, over the years was learning to harness your superpower. Learning how to, because I'll always quote you and always talk about you, but you're really, in my opinion, the example of a high performer, but someone who has, I would say, real life changing gifts. Because I witnessed it for myself. With you as a business partner, and seeing like the potential and the power that you have, and wasting some of it as an entrepreneur, I think is a waste of, I don't know, I feel like there's some kind of not moral obligation, but I think like real impact. And I feel like something you might understand later down, I think, in the game. I don't know when did you realize like you had the power to do like really great things with your mind, with your brain, that you were seeing the world differently and you had the power to create stuff, that was game changing? Because we're going to talk about the stuff you created, but you created really game changing things. I mean, we're talking by optimizers, but different things you're working on right now, the crypto space, what you do at Tribe, etc. So when did you realize that?
It's pretty early. I remember that exact feeling you just described, which was, and I remember the moment. Like I remember I was in the car driving. I was definitely in my early 20s, and the feeling that came over me in that moment was, Matt, you have a lot of strengths and abilities, and you can create amazing things. And with that, it felt like a responsibility.
Mm.
I don't think it's an obligation, but it felt like a karmic opportunity, and there was a weight to that. And I think that I lost that. Or I guess we can talk a little bit about my journey. So I had that early 20s. I tried to do hyper ambitious things. I don't know if you even know too much of the story, but I was, I think, 25, and I wanted to build a customized, like, individualized training program, diet website, and build team. And again, I'm totally green. I didn't understand business. I didn't understand marketing. I was just ambitious and had a vision, which that's where a lot of us start. And it was a total disaster. I hired a company, and we paid them 50 grand to build the platform, and they went out of business. So we never was able to get the product, and it was really kind of a very painful experience at that time. But yeah, I've always had that, and then got really lost in drug addiction and alcoholism in my late 20s. So I mean, I'm genetically wired with the addiction genetics. I like, from the moment I started drinking at 12, I was never a normal drinker. Some people can just drink and
Mm-hmm.
have a few drinks and stop. I would start drinking and just keep going till I either blacked out, crawled on the floor, or puked. You know what I mean? Like that.
Mm-hmm.
That was pretty much what I did every single
Bringing
time.
to the extreme.
Yeah, there was like, and that's what makes kind of an alcoholic is you're powerless. As soon as you put alcohol in your body, you can't stop, right? And there's, of course, I got alcoholism on both sides, genetically, on my father's side and my mom's side. And and I really see that as a gift, by the way, which I'll get into. But I shifted to drugs because drugs, were a big upgrade. I wasn't as crazy. I was a total maniacal animal on alcohol, right?
Mm-hmm.
So when I shifted to drugs, that was a big upgrade. And my dream was always to try to manage it, and I think I did a decent job managing the drugs until, and I didn't want to say drugs, it was mainly weed. I was smoking a lot of weed, and then it progressed later. But when I was 28, I got divorced, and I'm making money online, and I've been making money online since 2004. So I'm making money online, and I get divorced, and just like that was it. Because my first wife, kind of grounded me a bit. She was very grounding in a lot of ways, and so when I lost that, plus I'm making money, plus I discovered at that time MDMA and all kinds of other things. That was it. So I went off the rails for like 5 years, and
Was that around the time you moved
crash
to
and burn.
Panama?
Yeah, so I went off the rails a year before I came to Panama. So I was living in Vancouver, British Columbia, and then decided to pursue my dream, which was to live in a place like Panama. That was a dream I had in my early 20s. So I came here. I still am here, and that just took it to another level. But I was out of control before that, and that I went out of control for about 4 years here, where I'm pretty much intoxicated on something pretty much every day of the week. And the consequences socially, spiritually, emotionally, business wise, just kept piling up, and eventually I hit my bottom and realized what I was doing, and made the changes. So I've been sober now. I just hit my 12-year anniversary last month.
12, dude, congrats, man. 12. I remember being there, I think, in Panama with you when you were handed your 5-year chip. So I'm like, oh, dude, that's been 7 years ago. 12
Yeah,
years. Amazing,
time
man.
flies.
Congratulations. Yep.
Yeah. So, got sober, and it took me kind of a couple of years to, I guess, find my bearings again, and get that drive, and, get my brain working properly again.
Did you
And I
feel at
think it
that
was
point like you had lost, I would say, like some kind of edge that the drug were not giving you?
massively. I mean, I definitely lost about 6, 7 years of prime time, right?
Mm.
Um, and again, there's no regrets, right? It's one of the things. I mean, we don't regret the past, and it took what it took to get me to where I am, and part of that was just that phase. So it took me a couple of years, and I think we met around that time.
Yep.
In a couple of years into my sobriety, we met and decided to become partners. And it's interesting. So I love what you're doing with Done by Noon, and that was really my goal. My goal at that time was, hey, work 20 hours a week, which you can do if you're done by noon. Take 8 weeks of vacation a year, and just live an awesome life, right? Make a
Mhm.
top 1% plus income.
Yep.
And so I meet you, and your skill sets were all skills that I was weak at. The structure, the systemization, automation, all the stuff. And I think, I had other strengths that you weren't as strong on. So it was a great partnership, and I learned a lot. And really, we achieved that goal at that time of, I remember that's where I ended up. And, there's a report on my book on my blog, mattgallant.tv, called 3X Your Productivity. And that's my version of being done by noon.
Mhm.
And it was awesome, and I achieved that. And then I go do BioCybernaut, which is this $20,000 week long brain training, neurofeedback, forgiveness experience. And I come out of that, and I kind of reconnected. But I'm still on your question. I reconnected with the purpose that I feel I have, and why I'm here on Earth, which is to create epic things and to bring them to the world.
Mhm.
So, and that was at that time that I think you saw that. You saw, well, this guy is ramping up. He's not in the 20-hour work week
No.
anymore. And we decided to part ways, which is is fine. So yeah, so since that time, I've just kind of gone the other way. I'm not in the Elon Musk 100 hours a week zone, and maybe 40 hours a week. But truth be told, and again, a lot of the stuff you talk about is the techniques, and there's other things as well. I've always been focused on on hyper effectiveness and hyper efficiency,
Mhm.
because that's the ultimate multiplier of time.
Yes.
And I got to give credit where credit's due. There was a great book called Cosmic Business Control. I know it sounds a little bit woo, but it's actually very grounded and reality, written by Mark Hamilton. It's a hard book to find. You can maybe find it on Amazon. But in that book, there was one concept that hit me and kind of changed me forever,
Mhm.
which is that intensity is the ultimate multiplier of time. Like, if you want to have a life and you want to be effective, right, and create high impact output, you can work 80, 100 hours a week, but I'd rather work 40
Yeah.
and produce what most people would struggle to do with 100 or 120.
That
So that's been my game. Go ahead.
that's yeah, because when done by noon, pretty much that's what it is. We're not talking about working less. It's really about working efficiently so you can live up to your ambitions and what life you see for yourself, right? I think when we so maybe we can come back to our partnerships together and how we evolved is that, and we had Lee Hayward, by the way, on the podcast a couple of weeks ago, and it all started with Lee, right? Because you and Lee were in a mastermind together. I remember Lee and I were close friends. Lee was my first mentor in the game, and exposing me to online businesses, and I remember him talking to me about you. It's like, there's this guy Matt Gallant, and he's from New Brunswick too. I mean, you don't. I was like, no, I've never heard of him, don't know him. It's like, yeah, man, he's like doing this and doing that, and I think you guys should meet. And I think you are following my stuff, like in the anabolic.
I was a big fan of your design, which is one of your superpowers, that your branding, your design. I was a huge fan of your website, which was kind of your first big online hit, right? Anabolic cooking.
Yeah, muscle cook and anabolic cooking, first hit, yeah.
Yeah.
So yeah, and so you were following the stuff, and I think you were part of the mastermind. A spot opened up, and you told me like, hey, let's get Dave in. So we, I know you know him, and I was like, yeah, let's do it. And I remember meeting you, and we kind of clicked right away. We knew some people, like we had friends in common, and I don't know,
It's
there was
hard,
that.
it's hard not to click when you're hanging out at Tim Hortons.
Dude, is that where we first met for the first time? Or we met
Well,
like in real life?
The first time in real life, we did a workout in Shediac in New Brunswick, and then we went to Tim Hortons.
It became a ritual now. I feel like Tim Hortons is a part of our like life together now. It's just like we hit every time we see each other. We're at Tim Hortons. Remember the time when we were in Shediac, and I think we had to hit a crazy year with Biooptimizers, and me and Wade were there, and we decided we go to the cashier and we're like, for the next hour, we're paying all the coffees for everybody who's come to the drive-thru and inside the store. And the woman was like, I'd never seen that before. And I remember people in disbelief, like, why are you doing all that? And for us, it was, I don't know, like Tim Hortons had some kind of federating power. I think as a maritimer in East Canada, like I think Tim Hortons is a religion. And I don't know, man, it was great. I remember doing that. I remember that forever. Like we paid coffee for everybody, like, and watching people's face at the drive-thru with a free coffee. It's like, what's going on? Right. And we had a few people who came to us thanking us and everything. But yeah, so yeah, we met. Yeah, that was that connection, man. It felt like, you and I always got along. I always liked here's the thing with you. I always felt you were a different dude. I was like, Matt is another species of human. I like that. I want to be friends with this guy, and even today, like I still think that of you is that I feel like you're a different level of human, like honestly. And every single time I talk to you, every single time we talk, I feel like I'm humbled by how, first of all, smart you are, but how how you evolved. You came from that place, and you're a different dude from when I met you. You're more serene now. You're more, I'd say grounded. You're not as, I would say, as fighty as you were, right? I think I remember, because you never. Oh shoot! I wanted to put the fight thing on the board in the bomb. the bomb played. But I was like, you would not never shy away from a fight with someone or getting into not an argument, but proving your point. And I feel like you have more of as you said, an energy, or you're more preserved an energy for
Mhm.
to create great things and more attention, right?
Yeah, I really got into hand to hand combat and self defense and street fighting with a Navy SEAL for about 7 years, and that wired me into deep into warrior mode, if you will. And
Mhm.
I was just ready pretty much to fight anyone or anything at any time. And yeah, and that's kind of one of the first things I started shifting. I think when I got sober, there's actually a part of the book which says, the big book, which is the AA literature, we will stop fighting anyone and anything, including alcohol. So yeah, that was kind of a powerful thing. And when I stopped fighting things, I just realized, wow, how much energy was I wasting there? Back to kind of what I was saying earlier. It's just crazy, right?
You have that, yeah, you have that focused savagery available now for you, and that's what I found. You when you go deep, you for anyone who knows Matt Gallant knows that when Matt goes deep, he goes deep, and when you think you're deep, he is way deeper than you. And you go very, very deep on your topics, on everything that you're getting interested in. And that's what I found like remarkable about you, is your ability to go really deep, but not like you have that obsessive side. I think that a lot of entrepreneurs have that. We get like really obsessed with things and we go very deep on, different things, but you have that capacity to go deep without, I would say now, destroying everything around. And we've saw that with people we've dealt, and partners and clients, that, some people have the feel of the need to destroy everything around them to, in order to go deep into something and then move on to the next thing. And you have that capacity to go very deep while making sure it enhances the big picture. It enhances everything, right? And that's one of the abilities that you have that I find really inspiring. That ability to go extra deep on things, and that you find like that's one of your superpowers, like the ability to go that deep and focused and
Mm-hmm.
detailed on things.
Yeah, and I think, again, most entrepreneurs, like you said, have that obsessive part of their brain. And it's kind of one of those double-edged swords. Of course, if I get deep into the wrong things like drugs and alcohol, it's very bad. But if I get deep into productive things or information or knowledge,
Mhm.
it's a great thing. And yeah, I get a great level of satisfaction. I generally don't understand, or have a hard time relating with people that don't go deep. I love the experience of going deep, and
Yeah.
again, things that interest me, of course, that I'm
Mhm.
passionate about, just really understanding them. And I think it's such a key thing to success. I think, let's take marketing as an example. And let's just take any platform, pick the platform you want: Facebook, Instagram, YouTube, pay per click, SEO, whatever. The principles are the same. The people that I know that are kind of the best at those platforms, they're that deep. They
Mhm.
understand the nuances, because we can teach the principles of marketing pretty quick, and people get that. But until you're in the trenches and you're running ads, or you're writing a blog post, or you're filming a YouTube video, or filming a podcast, recording a podcast that you're doing, there's the nuances that you don't understand. And I think if you look at the people that are, again, the most successful in any of those versus people that struggle or moderately successful, the people that are hyper successful, they're deep. They,
Mhm.
because it's the nuances. And the nuances take time to learn, and there's always an art and a science, especially to marketing and business. And I think unless you're going deep, you're going to struggle.
So, other than sleep, because we're going to have you back on the podcast in the next few weeks to talk about sleep, but other than that, what would be the one thing that you would say going deep in brought you the most, like say, value in your entrepreneurial career?
I'd say really understanding myself, who I am, my strengths, my weaknesses, my character defects. And there's a shortcut to that.
Mm.
And the shortcut are personality tests. Colby, disc, caliper, there's a bunch of them, right? And I remember kind of every test that I did, I started realizing, whoa, you're not designed to be an integrator, right?
Mm.
So why? And it was always super painful to be an integrator. So just
But
realizing
you
things like
you're
that.
but you became actually not, I would say, not good integrator, but you, like the way you went, because I remember you going from like a guy who was totally outside, like no systems, a lot pure ideas, big vision, to a guy who really understands like systems and implement. I remember when we started implementing EOS and Bioptimizers, you went super deep in that, and you became probably the most efficient entrepreneur. But was that part of the self-awareness process of
Mhm.
understanding that my visionary capacity might be like are great, but too much is kind of could be detrimental to the business?
Yeah, that's a perfect example, right? So there was a turning point where I was really good at say at building products and creating funnels and buying traffic, right? And I made tens of millions of dollars with those three skill sets, but I realized that I wasn't really a great entrepreneur. I was missing some core things, and
Hmm.
Traction by Gino Wickman was a huge turning point. So and at this point, I love having structure and systems because they're necessary. And of course, you saw the before and after,
Yeah.
um, which was total 180, 360.
180.
Yeah. So yeah, I think that realizing that without an integrator, without systems, without structure, um, it was just like raw horsepower. It was like a raw stallion that wasn't trained, and that's kind of where I was at. So having the structure and the systems was key for me to manage my weaknesses, right? To manage my defects, and allow, because I think a perfect business, right? And this is kind of what I'm striving to do now with all team members, but it's figuring out what are they super strong at, ideally what's their zone of genius, which very very few people get to,
Hmm.
but what's their zone of genius, or what could be their zone of genius, and let's eliminate everything that is not that, right? Let's start by the stuff they don't like to do, the stuff they're not good at. And the cool thing about business, unlike our personal lives, is that we can hire people that are
Hmm.
strong at the stuff we're weak at. We can't really do that in our marriage or in our personal relationships, but we can do that in business, which is awesome. So, of course, when you're getting started as an entrepreneur, there's a very difficult phase, which is you're a one-man show or one-woman show.
Hmm.
And then you bring in a few people, right? Customer support as an example, or just an assistant or a VA. And then you keep scaling. But ultimately, you want to be just doing things that you're great at, that you're passionate about, that aligns with your purpose, and that move the needle, and then become hyper effective and efficient, which you do a great job teaching people how to do. And that's it. And that's how you create high impact output. Because is the stuff that you're doing moving the needle or not? That's always the question. And that's of course what effectiveness is. And the way I think about it these days is like high impact output. As an example, you can have a janitor who's the best janitor in the world, and he keeps cleaning the same desk over and over again. And he's hyper effective, or he's hyper efficient at that, but he's really not effective. And I think that a lot of entrepreneurs aren't spending enough time um, going deeper and building the skill stack to be able to create high impact output. They start with certain things, and the challenge with an entrepreneur, and I think it's one of these endless, infinite games, is that there's literally hundreds of skill sets, right? Hundreds of sub skills, both hard and soft, and to go from one level to the next, you need to continue stopping doing certain things and continue learning new things. It's just endless. And I think that, in a lot of ways, the things that creates an entrepreneur's ceiling is one, their capacity to handle weight, and we can
Mhm.
get back to that. And two, their capacity to keep learning, growing, and evolving, which is one of our core values in every company that I'm involved in. So, yeah, those are the two things. But just to expand on weight, if we look at kind of use a workout metaphor, a bodybuilding metaphor, if you're the strongest person in the world, squatting 600-700 pounds is easy, right?
Mhm.
They can squat 1,000 pounds. That's hard for them, but versus the almost the entire world population would get crushed. Probably become quadriplegic if they tried to squat 600 pounds, right? And that's what I'm talking about is weight, right? And if you look at like a guy like Elon Musk, who to me is the GOAT, and in his ability to handle weight, and of course his ability to create and solve the world's most difficult problems you can imagine, from sending people to Mars to to out competing car companies without any car background, to it's just incredible what the guys is able to
Mhm.
create. But it's not just his mind, it's his ability to handle weight, right? Like, he's able to handle so much weight. To me, he is the world's strongest entrepreneur on that level. It's just incredible what the guy can do.
But it's that's a great metaphor, and we talk a lot about in the book on load management and these analogies with sports performance. But that's the thing. Elon started with he probably started where most people will never ever gonna end. You know what I
Mm-hmm.
mean? He started like
Mm-hmm.
it's like a bodybuilder who starts with great genetics, who goes to the gym for a couple of months and becomes freaking huge. And you've been working your ass for 10 years and you don't even look nearly as good as the guy. He started with genetic package that was just, out of this world, right? And I think it's a great example. Like I think he understood his superpower early on and decided that what, I'm going to make the most of it and have the biggest impact. I think he understood his kind of responsibility of what he had in his hands, right? And I feel like a lot of people see it as, oh, I'm never going to be in a new Elon Musk. I'm never going to be as good as that. And and it's not the case. It's producing the best that you can. It doesn't mean that, you might not win the Mr. Olympia championship, but you might be a good fucking, local bodybuilder. And the fact that you might impact, X number of people and help, these people that, and maybe identify the next good ones that might have potential at greatness, right? That's kind of the way I see it, is that being understanding where you stand and enabling that, for the futures. But without, I would say it's just not having a inferiority complex about, these super entrepreneurs. Like, I even look at you and I, for example, and I'm always amazed and at your ambitions, like the level of intensity that you put in everything. And for me, I realized that, hey, I'm not, and this is what kind of part why we decided to part ways too, is as partners, is that my lifestyle, let's say for me, like I I don't think I have the same capacity to like come up with what you come up. I think your brain power is just superior, but also is that you know remember when we parted ways, this is at the beginning of the first couple of years of life of Charliana, my firstborn, and I knew that, okay, well, I understand my limitations. I understand where I want to go. I'm going to stay true to that. You know what I mean? And
Mm-hmm.
I feel like entrepreneurs like that. They want to be someone, or having tacking ambitions to their back that are not necessarily theirs. You know what I mean?
Yeah, well, I think a lot of people, the first, and I'm was in the same boat. I mean, I think my first drivers was fear, fear and frustration, fear of being stuck. Again, I was born in a village in New Brunswick, Canada, of 300 people.
Laha represent, baby.
Exactly. So fear of being stuck there. I kind of at that time hated what I perceived was small mindedness.
Mhm.
And I was frustrated being there. I wanted to have a better life, a bigger life. I wanted more success. I wanted money, and that drove me for a long time.
Mhm.
And then I think that's where a lot of people start, right? And then it shifted once I started making money. It was passion, and I've only built businesses around things that I love. Whether it
Mhm.
was instructional guitar, I've been playing guitar since I'm 12, bodybuilding stuff, like and I love business, I love marketing, but if I'm not interested in the thing, I'm almost unable to motivate myself to do it. So that shifted, and again, this is a key point, and I think it's what you're referring to. Um, when the purpose light bulb turned on after BioCybernaut, that just propelled me to a different place. It wasn't driven by ego anymore, or fear, or desire for material things. Um, it was really just driven by just the wanting to create, loving creating things, and that's what I'm doing. And I think Elon is at that pinnacle. But you bring up a great point. First of all, only about 10% of the population has the genetics to be an entrepreneur. There's a great book called Driven by Doug Brackman. I think it's the best book on the topic. And when you look at the genes, there are some hunter genes and some gathering genes. So about 10% of the population have hunter genes. And again, these people, they're not all entrepreneurs, but they're salespeople. They're just a different animal, right?
Yeah.
So if you don't have that, it's going to be very difficult, because if you really break down being an entrepreneur, it's like, okay, I'm gonna take massive risk. I might not get paid for a long time. You need to be hyper tough, hyper driven, hyper adaptive. Like, there's a lot of core skill sets that
Mhm.
you need. And if you're starting a local business, as an example, that's a lot easier. And then as you scale up in complexity and competition, you just need to get better and better. And not everybody's gonna. I mean, again, there's only one Elon Musk, right? So everybody's got their capacity, and for some people, that's all they want. They want the ultimate lifestyle.
Mhm.
They want to work 20 hours a week, be done by noon, and take care of their family, spend time with their family. Maybe that's their purpose. Like, not every entrepreneur's purpose is to be a mega value creator. I think a lot of people, it's
Mhm.
other things, and being true to yourself. And listen, there's nothing wrong with, again, building a lifestyle business and having that pay for your life, and have a great life, and pay for your family.
But but I think it depends. I think for entrepreneur, I think, and you say I see a clear distinction between being a business owner and an entrepreneur. You know what I mean? You can be a business owner and be a good manager, but not having that entrepreneurial mindset of creating, right? And
Mm.
one of the big decisions that drove me to sell my shares at Bioptimizers was my inability to create anymore, because I was reading a role, CEO, being in a role, very operational role, and that creation, that freedom of creation, really started to taking a toll. You know what I mean? And I feel like entrepreneurs, that, as you said, we all go with a specific set of skills. We make money out of it. We're driven by different things that are not necessarily our purpose, or not necessarily like the understanding our creative powers. And we're more, driven by, freedom of time, financial freedom. But I think after every single entrepreneur, after like real entrepreneurs, after a while, they're going to have that kind of entrepreneurial midlife crisis where they're like, okay, well, what am I doing now? What can I do to bring myself to the next level? As an entrepreneur, but being true with how I want to live. You know what I mean? And I think like creation is one indicator. When you realize that you cannot create, or that you're limited in your creative capacities, I think this is where it creates kind of that imbalance between what you want and what you do. And so I think creation is a kind of is the essence. I think between I say an entrepreneur and a business owner. Not necessarily there's a bad or right or wrong, but this is how I would define, let's say, an entrepreneur versus like just a business owner. You can run a Tim Hortons franchise and be great at it and make a whole lot of money, but that doesn't mean that you're necessarily like an entrepreneur per se, like a pure breed entrepreneur.
Yeah, it's a good distinction. I think again, you're being. Let's talk about skill stacks, because I think skill stacking is one of the key things that can unlock new superpowers. And I'm going to use a sports analogy. So if you look at Conor McGregor and Floyd Mayweather, which are they've made hundreds of X's more money than the average fighter. Okay. Now, Conor McGregor, I mean, if you look at his record, he's not even that great of a fighter. But here's the skills, and Floyd's got the same skills, is they're incredible self-promoters. They're masters at social media. People are fascinated with their character, whether they love him or hate him.
Mm-hmm.
And that connection that they're able to create with fans is a very unique skill set. And when you stack that with their abilities in the ring, that's what makes them hyper successful, because people want to watch them, right? There's fighters that are better fighters than Conor, but they don't have that magnetic ability to self-promote and promote themselves. But that's true. I'll go back to kind of early in my career. The first thing I learned was copywriting. I spent about 3-4 years like just focusing on copy. So that was like my foundational skill. And I made a bit of money, but it was only after I added product creation and then at that time, pay-per-click, Google AdWords. That's what unlocked my ability to start making millions, right?
Yes.
As a copywriter, you might make, 10 grand, 20, 30 grand with a sales letter. But as soon as I learned how to advertise and how to create products, now I'm able to generate millions. So that was my skill stack at that time. And, my skill stack today is completely different, right? I don't run pay-per-click. I don't write copy. I don't do any of these things because, now that our business generating 8 figures, I need to just do very, very different things. And figuring out, again, how can I create the maximum high impact output for the business? And it's completely different than it was back then.
That's what I talk about, like in the Done by Noon book, is that foundational superpower, right? That one thing that you do 99% better than 99% of people, and having these, other skills, that skill stack as you talk about, and that are part of your power zone. So there are things that you do, you might not be your superpower, but things you do pretty damn well. And when you stack them and they're linked to your superpower, this is when you become, really, really good as an entrepreneur, or even dangerous as an entrepreneur, because it's like, Iron Man, it's like Tony Stark putting on the suit, but then you start tacking, like War Machine, for example, having all these upgrades that makes you like, really, really good as an entrepreneur. I think it's part of the evolution too. And you said it, is these skills or this stack will change with time. It will not always be the same, because first of all, you might discover that you have a talent for something or an interest in something, and that you're actually really, really good at that, and you should keep doing that. In your case, what I've seen is that you've traded some of these, superpower or these powers into a power, like delegation powers. Like you became a really, really good. You became really good at leveraging, these strengths and empowering other people to, be as good as you in these areas. I think this is part of, like, I would say, in your journey where you did the biggest improvements, that when you start embracing the leverage of empowering people to do what you did already great, but not saying, hey, I do it better than most people. I'm going to hang on to that, because you really wanted to scale, by optimizers, right? And that was another part too. Maybe we can talk about that, is, when I parted ways with you guys at Bioptimizers, another thing was scaling. So we were entering scale. So we brought the company back from pretty much a dead to 3.2 mil in 18 months, and from there we were ready to go into scale. And the set of skills that you need to go into scale are totally different set of skills than when you go from a solopreneur or small business owner to, someone who's entering growth, and I think a lot of people mistake that, like talking about scale, where, mistaking scale and business growth. Like for me, like, yeah, scale is business growth, but it's entering a new level, that hockey curves, moment per se, where everything you do is multiplied. You know what I mean? So what was, I would say that, so other than the fact that you became a really great with system, embrace structure, you implemented EOS, what's, let's say, the main skills that you had to take, and add to your stack, tack to your armor to become a great entrepreneur and bring buy optimizers to 8 figures?
Well, really, it's learning how to become a great CEO, which is a whole new skill stack.
Mm-hmm.
I'm going to talk about kind of the integrator journey, because I think a lot of people will understand this, and kind of how I see the levels. So kind of the lowest level integrator, and again, it doesn't mean they're not great people or highly effective, but kind of a secretary or a VA, right? That's like level one of an integrator. And then again, as you get better and you can handle more weight, back to that, and your skill stack improves, then you can get to project manager, right? And be able to coordinate multiple people to get something done. And then, director. But at the pinnacle, and even this title, there's levels and levels and levels of it. But COO, right? Chief Operating Officer, there's obviously a very different skill stack or skill set required to be a Tim Cook, who was Apple's COO, now he's CEO, running a multi billion-dollar organization compared to an 8-figure business. So it's constant, and there's a width and depth. And the main thing in my experience that you need to do, back to going deep, is you need to keep widening your skill stack. So again, you can't really manage things you don't understand. And that's always something that I always felt. So whether it was building a web page with Dreamweaver back in the day, I did it, right? So I understood the basics of building a web page. Like there's almost nothing in the businesses that I do that I don't understand, at least to a basic level. There's a lot of stuff that I'm not proficient at or understand really deep, but I'm able to communicate. And then, for example, I built a lot of software. I'm able to communicate with the developers, understand their problems to a certain level. Mm-hmm. They're able to communicate with me. And I think one mistake that I've seen a lot of entrepreneurs do is they delegate instead of coordinating and connecting. And the analogy that I give is delegation is telling your football team, hey guys, have a great game. I'll see you at the bar after the game.
Mm-hmm.
Imagine if an NFL coach did that, right? He'd be fired instantly. Versus coordinating, you're on the field. Yeah, you've got your offensive coach, your defensive coach, you've got your quarterback. Everybody's world class at what they do, but you're making adjustments to the strategy. You're making adjustments to the tactics and what's happening as the game progresses, and that's what makes a great coach. I think that's what makes a great CEO or a COO, which CEO is more on the visionary side, COO is more on the integrator side. But you need to be hyper integrated and connected. And it doesn't mean you're micromanaging. I am the furthest thing away from a micromanager, but whether it's using scorecards or meeting with people on a frequent basis and just, feeling, there was a great concept back in the cosmic business control called iron grip control.
Sounds like something you could have come up with.
Yeah.
So, it sounds very Matt Gallant type of word.
So yeah, having that iron grip control, I'm probably more of a rubber grip control, but just being integrated, right, and knowing what's happening and being able to adjust things is critical. But yeah, I think in my personal journey, one, really learning to become a leader, an effective leader, a respected leader. And that was a learning curve. There was times where I think I was more of a dictator. My EQ wasn't very high. I would shred people. You saw some of that.
Wayne and I talked about it last time a little bit, like actually of the air. The famous Matt Gallant quote: "Drop everything you're doing immediately and focus on this now." That was
Yeah,
that was
there
a
was
past
that, which
version
was
of me.
another problem. There was that too, just the lack of structure and systems and being able to focus. So, yeah, but I think becoming a better leader. In my case, like my core superpowers is around marketing and product creation. And again, there's many different types of CEOs. Some are, again, Tim Cook is obviously an operational wizard, grandmaster, and that's his skill stack, and that's what Apple needs, right? At the level of scale they're at, just managing all the supply chains and all the things they do. Tim was the right guy, probably, and he's doing a great job, obviously. So, yeah, it changes, right? And I think just paying attention to what the business needs, and I'm already preparing and making the growth curve to be able to handle a 9-figure business. And it's very different. I know it's different than what I'm doing now, but you always want to be in your mind one or two levels ahead of reality. You know, if you're always just, if you're not preparing, and preparing meaning going deep, learning, skill stacking
Yeah.
ahead of time, I think that's when people fall apart. And there's a lot of companies that don't make that jump from 5 to 10 million. I think it's like just a few companies out of 100,000 make it to 8 figures, and I think they're not making that skill stack shift. They're not preparing for the growth. They don't have the EOS, and as they scale, see the thing I love about intensity and scaling is that it reveals all your chinks. It reveals all your weaknesses, right?
Mm-hmm.
As soon as you start applying more pressure, more weight, you see where the system falls apart.
Yeah.
So there's things where we've been focusing on. For example, with hiring, we use predictive index and greenhouse. We have an HR department that, if you're just making a few $100,000 a year, it doesn't make any sense.
Yeah.
But for us at this point, that is absolutely one of the most important systems. So it's just interesting to just watch what becomes the critical factor. And critical factor means, like, what's the one thing or the core thing that you need to focus on to drive growth. And that's always changing. Again, there was a time when you launch a business, great marketing, great sales, great product. That's the basics, right? Gets you off the ground. And then over time, that changes dramatically.
Yeah, I say that there's two ways, right? There are like three ways. Like, after you reach, a certain level of growth, there's that it's either your sales are going to go down and you're not going to do anything, be able to do anything about it if you don't do, more. It's either you're going to scale if you acquire the right set of skills, or you create like what I call a self-driving business, which is a highly optimized, structure, which you will not be able to scale with a self-driving business. Let's be honest. Like you can have a constant growth and a nice growth, but never scale, right? And I think that was the conscious decision that, and I knew it was coming, Matt, because one thing we did when we decided we had Balboa together, publishing marketing agency company. And, when you brought me in at Bioptimizers, we didn't know where it was going to go, because we knew where it could go. We didn't know if it would actually, like, if the cake would rise, you know what I mean? Because he had great products, we rebranded, and thank God, like things went amazingly well. But I wasn't sure, like, if that's what I wanted to go in my career, because I didn't know. And you said it, like, you don't know what you don't know, right? And I had never grew a business that fast, getting it to scale. And one thing that we did really, really well, you, me, and Wade, was having a clear operating agreement, which is, okay, the partners getting together, partner A does that, partner B does that, partner C does that. And here are all the what ifs. What if a partner dies? What if this, what if that? And we had really prepared well for that, where, hey, if and for me, like I really wanted to see like 2 years bringing it back and see where it goes. And after 2 years, it was like, okay, you have three options. You can sell it, you can replace yourself, or you can stay, right? And having these, like, it was like, okay, well, I'm making a choice, and here's what it is. But this is something we did really, really well. And for you guys, it was clear for you anyway. Like, it was like scale, and you were a lot more passionate than I was on the subject of Biooptimizer. We're going to talk about sleep, in another episode. But I think this is what I admire about you guys, is what your dedication to like the topic of Biooptimizers. You had that company from, what is that, 2004 it started,
Mm-hmm.
with probably the best enzymes on the market. It was the best enzyme on the market, in my opinion. This is why I bought in, and then bringing that company to the next level, like really to the next level, and now like going to the Zamner zone, the stratosphere of business, right? And so last year, so you cracked the eight figures last
Mm-hmm.
year. Congratulations, fucking amazing!
Thanks.
Like, considering, like, I'm looking at the company. That's why I told Wade last time. It's like, when in 2014, when we revived the brand, put Biooptimizers back on the rails, it's like, let's make it a great fucking company. And it went back fast, but you guys just brought it to another level. After that, it was just, you brought it to eight figures. Now I think you're going to aim to more than double the sales, and which means doubling the impact, because when you have products like you have, it's not another Me Too product, which is based on, having, shitty product or white labeling business. Like, the amount of time, of energy, and attention that you put into the creation of and the optimization of your products, it's just amazing. The dedication you have to make it this, like, really the best business in the world for human optimization, man. Like, I'm so happy to see that. And I had no doubts in my mind, like, you guys, like, when we started, like, seeing that growth, that you will bring it there, man. It's just fantastic to see, and watching that, in front of us now.
Thanks.
It's amazing.
Yeah, I think a key concept that is hard to lose if you really first embrace this as a mindset, and two, make it happen, which is a lot more difficult, is striving for best in class. There's not a lot of competition at
Mhm.
that level, right? Most people, most businesses, they don't care that much, right? They go for basic, good enough's good enough, but there's always a market, and again, usually very little competition if you take things to another level. And the cool thing is, when you do, you can charge more, and you make healthy margins. And back to Masszymes, when we were building that product, I still remember the cost. We were talking with our formulator, and we were evaluating the cost of all the ingredients, and we made the decision right there. Listen, we want the most effective proteolytic enzyme, period. Regardless of the cost, we'll figure out how to sell it. We'll figure out how to market it, and all that later. Just give us the best possible product. And that's what we did. And if you look at it from a pure economic sense, it still makes sense. Why? Because you get that repeat business, right?
Yes.
If you can deliver world-class meal, whether if you're a restaurant or whatever performance as your business does, that's how, one, you get repeat business, and two, you get word of mouth. And I
Yeah.
think it makes it really easy to scale. And the supplement space, to be frank, almost no one is really evolving and innovating or testing and researching. They pretty much just grab hot ingredients, and there's levels. I mean, first of all, there's scammers. A couple of years ago, 105 companies got busted for either A, not having anything that was supposedly on the label
Yeah.
in the bottle, or two,
Mhm.
spiking it with drugs. So you got that. But then
Yeah.
most people just create, again, like I said, Me Too products. They just grab what's hot or copy people. They don't go deep, and that's the
Mhm.
key to great products, is going deep. At this point, we have a lab in Bosnia. We have probably the best nootropic chemists in the world that we're partnering up with. So, there's a dedication, and I'm not satisfied. Like I want multiple labs. I want more data. I want more experiments. I want, and that's how we keep creating better and better products. So I think it goes back to that classic Arnold saying, stay hungry. And for me, it's stay hungry and be grateful for the now, because I think I've always been hungry, but there was a lot of time. There was a big chunk of my life where I was hungry and dissatisfied and suffering, and that sucked. So I just learned over time, I'm naturally going to be striving for better, which is great, but I can be grateful for where I am right here, right now. And that's been a really magical space to get into.
You felt like you were trying to do things that were just not aligned, just kind of to prove yourself or like prove something or someone wrong, or what? Why was this pain? I mean,
Yeah,
there.
it was comparing myself to people and feeling less than, right?
Yeah.
And I just realized, that's an infinite losing game. Like there's always somebody better than me at
Yeah.
something, always. So
Yeah.
why am I playing this infinite losing game?
It is, when you compare yourself, if you're not true to what you truly want, to your ambitions, to your own style, like I like it. It's an endless losing game. It is true, and I always talk about that, being very, very, very authentic with your, not authentic, I don't like that word, but being very true to what you truly want, be unapologetic about it. Like being very, 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 and that's where things flow. When you're in alignment, when you have that, this is when great things happen, regardless of the money you make, regardless of, you know, of everything else. It's just like great. Your life is going to upgrade, and your business too will upgrade. Whatever your business looks like, you don't need to have $100 million business to be happy. Guess what? If you're not happy in the process, more than likely, it will not happen. You need to absolutely love what you do and do that. And you guys, I mean, at Bob Optimizers, you and Wade, just you embody that. You guys have a lot of fun building that company, but you really create the products that you want to see in the marketplace. And just I'm amazed every single time you have new products, and you have great stuff that's coming with the newts and all the brain optimization products you guys are working on, which is absolutely insane. Maybe we can bring you back, guys. You and Wade actually come back to talk about that in a future episode. But I just love what you're working on, man. Matty G, brother, man. Thank you so much for
Thanks,
being
brother.
here.
It's been
Thanks for
awesome.
being in. Yeah, thanks for being in my life, man. I would say you're a big part of my life, of my entrepreneurial journey, and your friendship and everything we shared and we still share today. We'll be forever grateful, to have that, man. So thanks so much.
I feel the same way.
Bless Lumbet Deep.
Bless, bless, bless.
All right, brother. Talk to you soon.
You have just listened to the Done by Noon podcast. If you are interested in hearing more, do not hesitate to subscribe to our channel. Click on the 5 stars or check out our free tools and trainings at donebynoonpodcast.com. Thanks again for listening, and stay awesome. We'll see you next time.